Can you hear the audio? Hello. Can you hear me now? Anybody hear me? Oh, we've got some odd audio here. Hello, 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 hello. Anybody hear me? Hello?
Still nothing on the webinar, Dave.
There we go. Sorry. Sorry about that, guys. There's obviously some glitch on the tech. So let me just... So let's start again, shall we? The goal is conversations. That's what you want. Conversations with the right people. That's the most important thing about what you're trying to achieve. Conversations with the right people. So what is digital selling? It's about building relationships and taking those relationships into conversations that becomes discussions, serious discussions about your product or service and how it can benefit them. That's the goal of digital selling, conversations. And so, as I shared earlier, but you may not have heard, lots of people are churning out stuff on email, on LinkedIn, to try and convince people to have a conversation, and it's just not working. It's literally, I'm going to blast you with information in the hopes that it'll convince you to have a call with me. Information will not do it. Information will not convince people to have a conversation with you. So the goal is conversations with the right people. And in order to do that, you need relationships, conversations, and discussions. Yeah, serious discussions about product, service, solution, all of that kind of stuff. That's what you want to do to achieve. So everybody's trying to find clients. Everybody wants leads, and they're making calls and doing everything they can to basically find the people who are ready to buy right now. So if you look at, let's say you look at your emails and look at some of the sales messages you've had on email or on LinkedIn, and you look at them and go, what's this person trying to do? And if you look at it, they'll be talking to people who, they'll be writing their message assuming that you want what they've got to offer. They'll assume that you understand the value of their service. And the reason is that 90% of the market right now are not looking for what you've got to offer. Only about 10% are actually looking or in the market, shall we say. And so HubSpot stat, I said it earlier, but you may not have heard it, 80% of B2B buyers buy from the first person they spoke to. So the top 10% of this diagram, the top 10% of buyers that are in the market right now will actually buy from the first person they spoke to. So if you want to compete in that marketplace on the top 10%, you have to be first. That means Google Ads being the first on Google, being the first ad that they speak to, being the first person that speaks to them about this on email or LinkedIn. You have to be first. And everybody's ignoring the people at the bottom, the people who are not yet in the market. And it's much easier to be first with the 90%. It's much easier to be first with these three lower tiers here, the three lower tiers. It's much harder to be first here. Much harder to be first here at the top. So why should a client choose you? You need to build awareness, belief, and relationship as part of your sales process. If you don't have these things in place, people will not understand you. You will be just like everybody else. And the relationship and the belief and the awareness gives you the advantage in the sales process. So awareness of you, your product, and the difference you can make. Belief in your product. They believe in your product. They believe in you as a person. And these will be various different levels. I'm not expecting people to have 110% trust in you if they're a prospect, but you need this underlying level of awareness, belief, and relationship because people buy from people, and the relationships are what makes the world go round. Somebody once said, I can't remember who it was, is the best salespeople build relationships. The more relationships you have, the more sales you make. And so the awareness, belief, and relationships are key to unlocking more sales. Now, you have a choice with digital selling. You can do something much in a different way, in that you can build a level of awareness, belief, and relationship before you ever make a sales approach, because you can do that through content marketing, you can do that through advertising, you can do it through all different methods on digital channels, so that people are aware of you, familiar with you, know a little bit about you, without actually having to go, hey, do you want to buy my stuff? And pitching hard. And the key, I feel, to digital sales is actually front loading a lot of that awareness, belief, and relationship before you make a sales approach. Before you send them a message saying, hey, do you need SEO or what have you? Actually build that level of awareness, belief, and relationship to a level where those people feel that they've had value in being connected with you, they've had value from what you've done, and so they will engage in a conversation. But if you don't have these, you have to build these at some point in the sales process, either before you make a sales presentation or before you get into sales discussions or during it. You have to do that. Without this, you are just nobody else. You're just the same as everybody else. And people tend to choose to work with people who they have a level of awareness, belief, and relationship in. I will do some questions and Q&A in a second. I'm just going to catch up with where I was with the audio glitch, and then we'll do some Q&A. So people buy when they believe you can solve a problem for them. People buy when they believe you can solve a problem for them. So first order of business is, I would be thinking about your product or service and think about what problems have to be happening in that business right now for your product or service to be valuable to them. What problem has to be going on in your potential customer's business that you can solve with your product or service? What has to be going on? This is really important to get your head around this, because the more you talk to the people's problem in your sales presentations and in your conversations, the more relevant your offering will become. So think about what's going on, what's the problems and challenges that business is having that your product or service can solve. And the reason I say this is because often people don't connect products and services with problems they have. And so you could be offering a product or service to somebody that you know will make a huge difference to their business. But if they don't see it, they won't buy. And so if you have a list almost of all the different problems that your product or service can solve for a particular client, you can tailor your messaging, you can tailor your conversations around those problems. And when the customer tells you this is the problem they've got, you already understand it well enough and how your product or service can fix it. People buy when they believe you can solve a problem. So what are the problems that have to be going on in their business that you can fix? Likewise, let's say, for an example, your potential customers using a competitor's service. What are the problems with the competitor's service they may be having, and how does your product or service fix that? List them out. In my office, I have a glass wall behind me. I'm not there today, I'm at home. But on my office glass wall, I write down the problems that my customers will be having and how my service can help them. And I just write that there, so I never lose sight of the fact that people buy to fix problems. And so if I understand my customers' problems well enough, if I become an expert in my customers' problems, I will show more value and be more valuable to my potential customers. So everybody goes on a journey. Every customer or prospect will go on this journey. Where they are now is what one of the things you have to find out. So this is the journey. It's a very simplistic journey, but I use this diagram to really kind of help you get this. So on the left-hand side is the customer has a problem. Then they want an outcome. They want to get somewhere. Now, that's all well and good, having a problem and wanting something differently. But then they have to make a choice that they're actually going to do something about it. Not they're going to buy something, but they're actually just going to take action. So a decision to take action. And then they go looking for the solution. Now, for you looking at growing your digital selling and being more effective in your digital selling, you have to understand that the closer people get to finding the solution, the more transactional your sale will be. The more the customer will define the criteria on which you will be evaluated. So if you can see these lines, these dotted lines here, yeah, the closer the customer gets to the solution by themselves, on their own, in other words, discovering the solution, the more precise they will decide what is the answer they want. The more transactional it will be. And to give you an example, on the far right-hand side, the find the solution side, on the right-hand side, on the extreme far right of that would be tendering, going out on a competitive tendering process. On the extreme left is a customer who goes, we've just got to fix this, we need to fix this. Yeah. So the closer the customers and prospects get to finding the solution by themselves, the more you will be in a competitive process. The more you will be evaluated against someone else. And the more likelihood you have to be first to win the sale. So that's the journey people go on. Now, if you look at this diagram which I showed you before, and this chart on the back, on the right-hand side, is actually a study done by Les Binnett and Peter Field about sales and sales and marketing. And what they discovered was that if you focus on sales activation, in other words, short-term sales, which is looking for people who want to buy right now, you actually end up in a position whereby it's very difficult to scale that business because the cycle has to keep going round and round and round, get sales, get sales, get sales. And that breeds a culture within your business where you have to effectively chase down new leads, new opportunities that will convert quicker. And then you end up with a culture whereby if something's long-term, it probably gets left or ignored. Follow-up and nurturing doesn't exist. Or if it does, it's being paid lip service to. It's not really, nobody's really being nurtured. And so the top 10% are all about short-term sales and the bottom 90% about the long-term sales. Now, the fascinating thing is that what they discovered is that the ones that focus on the long-term sales growth actually build a progressive growth that over time compounds. In other words, it gets the sales results improve over time. But when they found that people focused on the short term, let's get people over the line, we need to close business, we've got numbers to hit this month. If that thought process and that way of doing business became endemic within the business, you'd have this chase yo-yo, almost like stuck on a hamster wheel kind of sales process where it's going round and round and round and you just have to do a lot of effort to stand still to keep the same numbers. And so what if you can do both? And this is where it's fascinating with digital selling, is that if you talk to the bottom 90% about their problems, their outcomes, and their challenges, you actually appeal to the top 10% too. But if you talk to the top 10% about very specific stuff, it alienates the 90%. So the journey is the problem they have, the outcome they want, the decision to change and find the solution. If you start talking about the problem that a company has, it's relevant to the people at the find the solution stage. If you talk to people about the outcome they're trying to achieve, it's relevant to people at the solution stage. But if you start talking at the solution stage about Google AdWords or PPC or SEO, which is the specific solution, it may not be relevant to the people further down on the left-hand side because they've not really connected the dots or joined the dots between your product can fix my problem. And sometimes we assume that people get this. We assume that people understand that our product can fix their problem. And we don't really spell out that it does fix the problem. So how do we achieve success? So practice, culture, and learning. Practice is that in order for you to change the way you sell, you have to practice at it and get better at it. What most people do is go, I'm no good at this, I'll just do what I've always done. You have to learn how to do this. You have to develop a skill, and it's a new muscle almost. You have to learn some techniques, and you have to build a culture within your business of how this works, how we sell that helps people understand what you can do and the difference you can make. So how do we get more clients through digital selling? Do we find them or do we create them? So let's have a look at finding clients. So finding clients, as I said before, is focusing on this top 10%. You have to be first. 80% of B2B buyers buy from the first person they spoke to. So you have to be first. The diagram again showing you that if you're going to try and do that, you've got to be first, and you've got a cycle that you've got to keep going. It's actually quite difficult to scale that because you have to kind of put more and more effort in to get the result. So the problems of doing this is to hit the numbers, you chase active buyers, people who are looking right now. Hunting active buyers is expensive. Now let's think about this like cold calling. I know many people don't do cold calling these days, but it's a classic example that will explain this. Let's say you typically, somebody works for 8 hours a day on sales. They will work for 8 hours selling, cold calling, and out of that, they will get 4 or 5 decent conversations, 4 or 5 decent conversations. So they spend 8 hours to get 5 conversations. So they either, to increase those number of conversations, have to work more hours or get more efficient. But effectively, they're looking for the people who will converse. They're dialing lots of numbers to find the people they can actually speak to. That's how it works. So they're burning through numbers, churning through numbers to find people who they can speak to. And so they're being paid for 8 hours work to get 4 or 5 decent conversations, effectively. So the vast majority of their time is eliminating people, receiving the no's. And so hunting for active buyers, the top 10%, is expensive and time consuming. And of course, that pursuit resets every month or every quarter or every week based on whatever your targets are and whatever your numbers are. So it's a lot of work to make sales. So let's look at creating clients. So you can use all the same tools, Google, SEO, all the same tools, And I'll explain the difference in a second between the two. But you're harvesting and sowing. And I remember learning about this in school. You reap what you sow and all that kind of stuff. And if you think about this in a classic sense of sales calls, cold calling, you're literally making lots of calls to find the people who are ready to buy. And all the people who have said they're not ready to buy have given you a no thanks, or not interested, or call back another time, or we're not interested right now, or maybe next year, or whatever. It would be interesting to know what the stats are of the people who actually follow up on all of those calls where they weren't successful. What do they do with those people? And this comes back to something I said earlier. Lots of businesses say, and I hear it a lot, it's so frustrating. We know that our product or service can help that company, and they just don't see it. And that comes down to it. If you present a product and the buyer isn't educated to a level that they can understand the value of your product or service, and you just talk about your product or service, that's your fault. You've missed that opportunity. It's not their fault. It's your fault. And so I'm going to show you how we do this in a different way. So because everybody goes through these stages, why don't you talk to people instead of thinking about, hey, we do SEO, or we do this, or we do that? Why don't you talk about the problems whether it be on your LinkedIn, whether it be on your emails, whether it be anywhere you're going on a digital platform to sell. And why don't you talk about the problems and outcomes that your customers want and have? The problems and outcomes that your customers want and have. Yeah, so they've got a problem in their business right now. You know your product can fix it. Or they're keen to solve a problem, to get to a goal in their business, or they want an outcome in their business. What's the result they want in their business? And talk about that. Now, if you talk about problems and outcomes, your customers who are a bit further down the line will still pay attention because you're talking to their problems and their outcomes. And so you get the attention of the people who are not really understanding the difference your product or service can make. So this is how it looks. And we call this our Maverick Method. Is if you talk to their problems and you talk to their outcomes, you take them on a journey of decision, and you are first. You are now first. If you talk to the problems and outcomes and you help them see how they can make a decision and they believe in your service, they effectively take their buying journey with you because you're first, you know them, you're talking to them in a relevant way, and they're building a relationship with you. Your product, your job is then to educate the customer that if they've got this problem and they want this outcome, your product or service bridges the gap. So this is an example of this diagram in the same way, but think about it like this. The gap is your most powerful tool. We'll do some Q&A in a second. The gap is your most powerful tool. So we're talking about messaging here now, whether that be emails, whether that be LinkedIn posts, whether that be LinkedIn messages, whatever this is how you get people to pay attention. And it's the gap. So where the customer is, point A, and where they want to be, point B. So a bit of homework for you. Go write down, based on your product or service, you can't mention your product or service whatsoever. What's going on? What's the current situations your potential customers are having? And what do they really want? And write those two things down, almost like create two columns on a piece of paper. What's the problems they're having? What's the fixes you can offer? What's the results you can help them achieve? Write all of them down. And people respond to that message. And your job then is to show them how you understand where they are at point A, you understand how they want to get to point B, and your product or service then is the gap. It's the vehicle, the tool that gets them from A to B. Customers don't really care about products themselves. They care about what the product or service allows them to do or allows them to achieve. That's why they like products. That's why they buy products, because it helps them get somewhere. It helps them achieve something. And so in your messaging, instead of focusing on, we do SEO and we can do X, Y, Z and all this kind of stuff, and talk about, you want people to find you on Google. You want people to come to your website and show interest in your product or service. That's what people want. And your product or service is the vehicle, the tool that gets somebody from A to B. And that's what's really important. Now, if you want to hold people's attention, the gap, pain points and outcomes is what does it. Talking about point A and point B gets people's attention and holds people's attention on a webinar, a video or a blog or a message or an email or a post. That's what does it. It's not how amazing your product is. Yeah. The only reason customers believe your product is amazing is because what they believe it will do for them or has done for them. That's why people love your product. That's why people love your service, because what it's done for them. And so that's what we should be selling. That's what we should be talking about. This is where they are. This is where they want to be. And this process appeals to people at all stages of the buying journey. So you provide value, talk to their pain, so your prospects can see for themselves that you can help them. And wherever the prospect is in the buying journey, they will be thinking about, how do I get to here? Or how do I get rid of this problem? How do I get to there, and how do I get rid of this problem? And if you talk like that, if you communicate with them like that, they will resonate with it and they will pay attention. And then they will give you the time of day to have a conversation that can lead to a discussion. Now, I have seen some people use this methodology before, but they're too quick to drop the pain and the outcomes and talk about their product and the bells and whistles and how amazing it is. But ultimately, customers buy into a product or service because of what it will help them do, not because of the product itself. Yeah, that's what people buy into stuff. If you look at all the major brands and businesses, their product, and this is the fundamentals of value selling. Value selling is showing people the difference it can make, not the components and the little elements that make it up. The bullet points of benefits and features. It's actually, this is the difference it can make to your business. And so if you shift from do you need SEO to would you like more traffic and business and potential customers coming to your website, those two shifts, actually more people will engage with you, and more people will realize that you are offering a valuable service. And so you will avoid a lot of the competitive process stuff. You'll avoid a lot of the people who are just looking for a quick fix, and you'll have more meaningful conversations with people where they want to know more about how you can make a difference to their business. So just as we're wrapping up and going into Q&A, you got two options here. Which one works? Tell people what you do and try and start a conversation. It doesn't appeal to a pain point. It's focused on the purchase stage. It's very transactional. It's pushy and buy my stuff. That's what everybody's doing. Everybody's doing this stuff. Or you start a conversation and move it to talking about what you do. In other words, it's based on pain. It's based on them being curious about how you can help people go from pain to an outcome. It's relationship centric. You're building relationship as you go. It's problem focused, and it's a bit more informal, a bit more relaxed, so the buyer doesn't, the customer doesn't feel under pressure. I've seen this done on LinkedIn with content. I've seen it done with messages. I've seen it done with email. And what you find is the sales process is far more relational than if you go down the route of telling people this is what we do. Do you want it? Or as the classic one is, you give a long-winded email explaining what you do and then saying worth a conversation. In other words, what you're doing is giving me enough information for people to evaluate whether they think it's a benefit without a conversation. And then they evaluate it based on what you've said. And it just does not work. So let's have a look at some questions. I know I went through that quite quick. Any questions? Any questions? Just an apology on the audio. I don't know what's happened with the internet. There's been a bit of a glitch tonight with the audio, but we will get that fixed. Any questions? Any questions? So it really is about delivering value, and value selling is where you will make your money. It's where you will engage more prospects, and that's all about pain and outcome. It's the problem that you can fix and talking about the problem and showing people the outcome they can achieve. That's what you really, really need to focus on. Any questions? Anybody want to give some examples of how this would work in their business? Happily do that. Talk about how it can work in their business. No, you're all quiet. So what we're going to do is we're going to re-record this session because of the audio glitches, and we're going to put this up on our YouTube channel for you to watch again. So if you've missed any of it because of the audio glitches, please accept my apologies, and we will get a new recording of this put up for you. If there's no questions, I'm going to wrap up. We're doing another session in 15 minutes on lead magnets. So the homework I would give you, homework sounds a bit silly giving you homework, but get a piece of paper, split it into 2 columns, the problem that has to be going on in their business to need your service and the outcome you can help them achieve. And you might have 4, 5, 6, 7 different versions, and you might have different ones for different types of businesses. If you write them down, you can start to talk about to people about that. We also have, which I'll happily share with you, it's free. We have a worksheet that you can use on this topic of understanding your customers' pains. So if you want a copy of that worksheet, just I'll put our email in the chat. I'll put our work. Just drop us an email and we'll send you a copy of it. Basically, it's a bit of a difficult worksheet, but actually you'll understand your customers better as a result, and you'll understand the messaging that you need to use. So if you want that worksheet, I'll put our email in the chat there. Just go and drop us an email and we'll send you it. And it is tough, but it builds your messaging. It helps you with website copy. It helps you with all of the things that you need to really talk to customers about where they are in their buying journey. So I would highly encourage you to get a copy of that, but at the very least, piece of paper, split it into 2 columns. What's going on in the customer's business right now? What's the problem there that you can fix? And then what's the outcome they want with that problem? And if you write those down, you'll actually have really powerful messaging that will help you with emails, that will help you with outreach, that will help you talk to people better, will help you with social media posts to really get the attention of your target customers. Richard said, how do you open an email with pain points? So Richard, with email, if you're reaching prospects, the key thing to understand is that the subject line is probably the most important thing. So building the subject line that's relevant to your customers is again, I'd use a pain point as the subject line, a pain point question as the subject line. And then I would just do a very short email just saying, are you struggling with this? And we can show you how to do Y. So are you struggling with X? We can show you how to do Y. Maybe give a resource and then follow up. Don't try and do the sale in one email. A lot of people, what they're trying to do is go, I'm going to give you a load of information, and then hopefully that'll convince you to have a call with me. What you should be doing is thinking about giving some value about the pain, showing them how it matters, and then following up. So Richard, we are doing another session on this, so go check the Oxlep website. We have got other sessions on how to write this out together. So Richard, I would be straight down the line with the questions of pain points. And we did a session for Oxlep on content and writing content. We're going to be doing it again. So go have a look at that, sign up for that one, because that's all about how do you write, how do you put this into action in terms of writing it down. Well, if there's no more questions, thank you for watching. Again, apologies with the audio at the beginning. We'll get that looked into and fixed. But we've got another session in 14 minutes on this channel on lead magnets. So if you want to stop on for that one, you can do. Just check out the channel and find that, and then we'll catch up there, and the audio will work there. But thank you for watching. Please do go do the homework. If you want the pain sheet, just email us, hi@maverick.co.uk, and we'll get that there. Do go check out Oxlep's website, Oxlep's company page. There's loads of funded support there for you, loads of resources that will help you in your business. So do go look at